Hello, this is Marshall Goldsmith. I'd like to say thank you to all the wonderful stakeholder-centered coaches. Had the opportunity to talk to about 600 of you recently. As you know, we're going through some changes in the organization. The first thing I'd like to do is notify you of some upcoming Zoom calls to discuss these changes. The first one is going to be Thursday, 1 week from today, Thursday, 1 week to today on the 10th of September, and we're going to be discussing managerial leadership. Managerial leadership in stakeholder-centered coaching. Now, what does that mean? Some of you really would like to get involved in leading a country, perhaps a city or an area or region. This will range all the way from global leadership, which is leading the entire stakeholder-centered coaching organization, to leading an area such as Asia or country, or then a region within that country. So one of the areas we really need help in stakeholder-centered leadership is managerial leadership. One thing I want to do is really much more decentralize this process. So we have leadership throughout the stakeholder-centered coach community, giving you an opportunity to be more and more of a leader. So that's going to be Thursday. Now we're going to have two calls on Thursday. One call is going to be 7 a.m. California time, US, that's Pacific US time. And then there is 7:30 p.m. Pacific US time. We schedule these calls approximately 12 hours apart so that we can get as many people around the world as we can on the calls. Well, that's call number one, managerial leadership. Call number two is not scheduled yet. This is called thought leadership. In our thought leadership call, I'm going to ask the stakeholder-centered coaches to focus on one thing. How would you like to use this process yourself? Really being creative. I had an interesting interview with a friend of mine, Nan Kande, who's a leader in Zambia, and she talked about using my material in Africa and said, a lot of this needs to be translated, needs to be presented a little bit differently. And I thought, well, that's fine with me. And we're talking about how she could present the material. And I said, I get a great idea. Why don't you just rewrite the material? Rather than work around it, just rewrite it in a way that's good for you. Put your name out on it if you want to, modify it. And then, by the way, if you do it for a nonprofit, you don't have to give me anything, just do it. I'll be happy to give you rights and permissions. And if you want to do it and make money for it, if you think that I or somebody should be paid for it, just either send a check to me, which I'm going to donate to our charity, the 100 Coaches Pay It Forward Institute, or you can donate it to the charity, either way. Doesn't matter, and there's going to be no accounting and all this stuff, so you just do whatever you think is right. So that's going to be our second call, which is thought leadership. And I'm going to challenge you and say, is there something you would like to do to be a leader in stakeholder-centered coaching? Not so much lead in an area, that's going to be in our first Zoom call, but in leading thinking. How do you use this, for example, with young people? How can we use this concept with older people? How can you use it in a different culture? So really rewriting the content in a way that's good for a specific audience. How can we translate it into as many languages as possible? So I want to be very open. First call, managerial leadership. We've talked about that. That's already scheduled. The second call, which will be scheduled next, is thought leadership. Next, I'm going to have another call where I'm going to talk about content. And I'm going to have a series of content calls. Some of the calls are going to be reviewing basics, because I necessarily haven't personally had a chance to review the basics of stakeholder-centered leadership with all of you. So we're going to review the basics, talk about the daily question process, talk about the LPR process, talk about how you can use these various coaching techniques, and hopefully in a way that's going to help you. And then finally, we're going to ask you, what ways can I help you? Because I would like to get more involved in the stakeholder-centered coaches. How can I help you do the best job you can possibly do? We've got tons of good input already. My apologies if I haven't got back to everybody yet. We have had about 600 or 700 people on the two Zoom calls we did before. So, and we've got a lot of stakeholder coaches. So I'm really looking forward to working with you. This is exciting times. I'm going to do the best I can to share things with you. First call, managerial leadership. That's going to be a week from Thursday. Two calls, 7 a.m. California time, 7:30 p.m. California time. Then we're going to have thought leadership on the next call after that. Then we're going to have content calls. So very much looking forward to you. Hope you find this new role I'm playing useful for you, and any suggestions you have for me are greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for your support of my work and for being a stakeholder-centered coach. Thank you. Talk to you later. Goodbye.